Nicki Minaj released her highly anticipated 5th studio album, Pink Friday 2, on December 8, 2023. Being her first album in over 5 years, it was one of the most highly anticipated albums of the decade, and with it being a direct sequel to her debut album, Pink Friday, an album that quite literally revived the entire female rap genre, expectations were set high for this album, and there was a lot hanging on to it. There were so many expectations set towards Nicki's 5th album, even before the first singles were released, and a lot of people wondered, will Nicki Minaj be able to capture the essence and magic of her first album? Will she be able to keep the attention of the general public the way she did in her debut year? Will the album even be good? Because to some, Pink Friday 2 was a triumphant return for Nicki, showcasing that she still has what it takes 15 years into her career. Whilst to others, Pink Friday 2 was a hodgepodge of an era, filled to the brim with messy rollouts and confusing singles. In this video, we're going to be answering all of those questions and see whether or not Nicki was able to successfully turn our Fridays into Pink a second time, and we're going to be doing all of this right here in Gag City. In her over 20 years in the industry, Nicki Minaj has released over 3 mixtapes, 4 studio albums, a reissue of her 3rd mixtape, and a greatest hits compilation album. Each project Nicki Minaj creates seems to come with a lot of stakes in her career, as a failure in any of these projects could have meant the end of Nicki as we know it, especially with the double standards placed at Nicki and female rappers in general. We have seen how the general public can quickly turn against you in one swift swoop, from reviving female rap from the grave, surpassing the sophomore album slump, showcasing a more personal side of her persona, and proving that she is still the queen. Each of these projects always had a central theme to it, and something Nicki Minaj wanted to say to the general public. So what is Pink Friday 2 trying to say to us? What was the main message of this album? After 20 years in the industry, it seems like Nicki Minaj has said everything she needs to say. She has proven everything she has to prove. She is the queen of rap, the best-selling female rapper of all time. She is a global icon. She's proven that from her debut, when she fully dived into pop rap, when she reintroduced us to Nicki Minaj, and when the hate train was happening. She still got that pen and proved she is the best. At this point, she really has nothing to prove to anyone. Whatever bad things people still think about her, it's really not her prerogative at this point. It's up to the general public really. She has done everything she can. Or has she? I think that really encompasses the main ethos of Pink Friday 2. Pink Friday 2 is a question that poses to everyone and to herself, have I done everything as an artist to stamp my legacy as the queen of rap? Let's look at the rollout of the singles and really try to analyze whether Nicki got her answer for her question. An important thing to note was that during the pandemic and after the hate train, Nicki Minaj received a revival of sorts. After years of being hated upon and given the doubt of her queen of rap title, the pandemic kind of changed things for Nicki. Not only did Nicki Minaj herself receive a revival, but also being a barb became such a phenomenon at this time. Barbs were already a celebrity of sorts on their own before the pandemic, but during the pandemic, being a barb became a movement, a lifestyle, and everyone was a barb back then. Her music was so popular that she even placed in the top 10 of monthly listeners on Spotify during that time. She also got her first #1 hit with Doja Cat on the remix of Say So, and then another one with Trolls. This was a big dragging point people used against Nicki, that she has such a successful run without a #1 hit, and then she got 2. I've already created a video on this, but Nicki Minaj going on hiatus is one of her best marketing strategies to date, and it always works. Every time Nicki Minaj goes on a hiatus, that lack of Nicki is felt and people clamor for more Nicki. She broke her hiatus around May 2021 for the release of Beam Me Up Scotty, and it was a success for her, with the reissue of the mixtape peaking at #2 on the charts. This shows that Nicki still has the power to entice people to buy and stream her music, and it was an important move to show she still has what it takes. She also released the singles Do We Have a Problem and Bustin' at the start of 2022 as her street singles, as she said. Both were also successful in keeping the Nicki success train going. Do We Have a Problem almost giving Nicki her 3rd #1 hit, only being blocked by We Don't Talk About Bruno. It wasn't smooth sailing for her though. She did have her train of controversies during this time. The whole ball situation, her situation with her husband, and her stint with Jesse for Boys. All those controversies gave people another reason to hate on Nicki and follow the 2018 script of saying her career is over. She had to do something to keep her momentum going. She was going on a festival run, but it wasn't enough. The Pink Friday 2 era has still not started, and the build up to the lead single was taking too long. She needed to act quick, and so she released a snippet to the song that will really revive her career and show that Nicki Minaj is still a powerhouse when it comes to the charts. A snippet of Super Freaky Girl was released on July 13, 2022, and it was clear that this was going to be a hit. It went viral on TikTok and everyone was awaiting this single. And when it was released on August 12, everyone became a Super Freaky Girl. It debuted at #1 on the charts, and it was also the biggest debut for a solo female rap song on Spotify. It was such a gag. We didn't know it back then, but we were in Gag City already. Super Freaky Girl was the single that really moved the Pink Friday 2 train going. The release was also around the same week that Nicki received her MTV Video Vanguard Award, and she performed the medley of her greatest hits, and then at the end performed her #1 hit single in the country. She was the moment. She then took some time to prepare for her next single, Red Ruby the Sleaze, released on March 3, 2023 as a promotional single, and it too was a success, debuting at #13 on the charts and once again setting a bar for female rap and showing true excellence in the genre. She also went on a feature run around this time, something she's done when building up her albums before. She was featured in Love on the Way, Tukotaka, the official FIFA Fan Festival anthem, WTF, Alone, Pound Town 2, Endless Fashion, Princess Diana, and Barbie World. The last two being huge successes and notably with Ice Spice. Barbie World in particular was a full circle moment for Nicki, which ties into the Pink Friday 2 album as well. Nicki has stated that this album will be a full circle moment for her, and with Nicki's persona as the Harajuku Barbie, her Barbie chains, the Black Barbie, Barbie Tings, and Barbie Dreams, having Nicki be featured officially on the Barbie movie soundtrack was a full circle moment for Nicki. On June 5, Nicki announced the release date of the album, October 20, 2023, and all of Gag City residents were rejoiced when October 20 came, and they got nothing because Nicki then changed the album date to November 17 for reasons we will soon know. She did, however, reveal the name of the album, which wasn't announced at this point, and it was Pink Friday 2. A sequel to her debut album. She released the last single before the album's release, Last Time I Saw You, which was a moderate hit that wasn't able to sustain longevity sadly, despite it being arguably one of the best tracks on Pink Friday 2. It sees Nicki recall her past contemplative hits like Pills and Potions, perfectly mixing pop with emotional meaning to her. It debuted at number 20 on the charts, with it receiving over 2 million streams on its first day on Spotify. Nicki also hosted a VMAs around this time, and she also performed Last Time I Saw You. But it wouldn't be a Nicki performance if she didn't gag the people. For context, Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B performed at the VMAs as well as Doja Cat. Nicki referenced in her opening monologue how MTV received calls saying they were petrified of what Nicki will say. Nicki didn't say anything really, but instead she previewed an album track from Pink Friday 2 entitled Big Difference, and it really caused a big gag. The balls Nicki had to rap, "I'm on a whole nother level, these bitches is out of their league. You bitches ain't batting like me. You bitches ain't better than me. You bitches look up to me. You say you look up to her, but really you look up to me." Whilst your sons were in the same building, like Nicki gagged. Nicki also received a US Vogue cover this time, her first time being the cover of said magazine. It seems like everything really was being put in place for Pink Friday 2, and the album itself was released at Nicki's birthday on December 8, 2023. The album was a success, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart with over 228,000 units first week. In its first week, Pink Friday 2 received a total of 170 million streams, marking the highest streaming week of her career for a female rap album in the 2020s and for a female R&B hip-hop album in 2023. 14 songs from the album debuted on the Billboard Hot 100, with 2 entering the top 40, Everybody and Needle, and both songs would have placed higher if it weren't the holiday season. In fact, if it wasn't for Christmas songs, most of the tracks would have hit the Hot 100. It was her third number 1 album since Pink Friday Roman Reloaded. Internationally, the album peaked in the top 10 in Australia, Canada, Ireland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. It was really a success, and we probably won't see numbers like this from a female rapper for a long time. The album contained 22 tracks. It followed Nicki's known tendency to release an album with a lot of tracks, which often leads to there being a lot of filler. It also contains a lot of samples, which some people say did not help the album at all. Let's explore the tracks and really delve into the album. The album starts with Are You Gone Already, an introspective track in the likes of All Things Go, wherein we see Nicki Minaj talk and try to deal with the loss of her dad and how he, as Nicki says in the first line, never got to meet Papa. It samples Billie Eilish's When the Party Is Over. I understand why this was the opening track of the album, but I think the sample kind of took a lot of the potential of this track, because the verses were powerful, however the overlines with the sample just didn't work for me and it was kinda distracting at some points. But again, I still understand why Nicki chose this as the opening track. I just wish maybe Nicki should have sang at least most of the chorus and the sample. The next track is Barbie Dangerous, a bombastic track that sees Nicki at her best, and what I wish would have been the opening track of the album. It harkens back to Pink Friday's opening track I'm the Best, and it sees Nicki talk about her still clear dominance of the hip-hop game, showcasing her pen, her flow. Even when she was rapping crazy, you can still hear and understand every single word and syllable she was saying. The song samples Notorious Thugs by the Notorious B.I.G. and Bone Thugs in harmony, continuing Nicki's stance on who she thinks she is up against and who she wants her comparisons to be with. If Biggie was alive, he'd sign Nicki. This is just a 10 out of 10 Nicki Minaj song for me. This is followed by FTCU, a club banger and an obvious hit from the start. Give her 10s, then take away 2, cause she ate it up again. This song really shows Nicki's more playful flows and bars, especially with the very viral high heels on My Tip Pace. It continues Nicki talking about her dominance, Spotify, ain't gotta lie, they really streaming my music. The fact that I'm just quoting the song just shows how hard the bars are and how it really just sticks with you. Another 10 out of 10 song from Pink Friday 2. The next song is Beep Beep, an interlude and was supposedly a scrap song from Nicki's original 2020 album. It was a cute song, but its interlude status and short duration kind of stopped the song from reaching its full potential. It had bars though and it still did its job. Too Late is still Nicki's best interlude, by the way. Fallen For You comes next, a song with an orchestra-esque grandiose beat, and it sees Nicki reiterate that she is the best female rapper. The song kind of starts really slow for me. The first and second verse was kind of okay, but it really picked up at the third verse, where Nicki really goes in using the phrase picture me throughout the whole verse and just spinning crazy. I mean, Locto, Use a chop ho. I mean, come on now, that's a genius Nicki bar right there. She's number 1. Y'all go argue over top 4. Let Me Calm Down is next, and it features j.cole, someone the Barbs have wanted Nicki to get in the song with. I kinda wish it was a more hip-hop and rap-based track, but it's still a great collaboration for me. j.cole's verse was great here, and I kinda think he watched Nicki here, but this type of song is something we have come to expect from a Nicki album, and Nicki's vocals in this song also ate. R&B is the next song, and it features Lil Wayne and Tate Cobain. This song is just classic Nicki. The chorus was just so catchy and tight. The verses from both Nicki and Wayne are just great. And the production was great here too. I love this song so much, and it was such an instant favorite of mine when I first heard it. Then we get Pink Birthday, a very R&B inspired track. As someone who just celebrated their pink birthday, this song was on my most played. It didn't really grab me the first time, but it definitely grew for me. You know, it's definitely a grower, and I kinda wish it was longer. And not just one verse. But this will forever be a classic for every Barb celebrating their birthday. Needle comes next, featuring our favorite bottom Drake. And again, it's just a classic Drakey collaboration. Nicki's verse here is just so attention grabbing with funny lines like ducking them like Bjork. Like, come on now, we all chuckled a little bit when we heard that. The chorus sang by Drake was also just so catchy, and I kinda understand why it was the track they promoted first when Pink Friday 2 was released. A Drake and Nicki collaboration just seemed like the obvious next tip. There were just other tracks that surpassed this, but this is a solid 9 out of 10 for me. Cowgirl featuring Lourdes is the next song, and it is Pop Nika's first move in the album. The chorus is just so smooth and relaxing, and you just can't help but sing along. Nicki's verse here is filled with so much charisma that calls back to Nicki's old flow back in the early 2010s with her more high-pitched voice. This is just Pop Nika's return, and I love it. The next song is Everybody featuring Lil Uzi Vert, and this is a highlight of the album for me, and for everyone, I think. This song samples Move Your Feet by Junior Senior, and they completely made it their own. It's an up-tempo, Jersey-inspired song, and it's a banger all throughout. Nicki's creativity just shines through here, ending each line with Everybody and Body, and it's just such a good song. It's no wonder why this was another viral track from the album. This song is so camp, honestly, and they were just having so much fun in this track. Big Difference is the next song, and I really wish Nicki released this right after her VMAs performance, because this song is really such a gag. This gave me Bees in the Trap vibes, just a whole lot harder. This song sees Nicki really talk her shit, and the way she just raps here, it just hits every time. And then the switch up at the second verse keeps the song fresh, albeit it did kinda slow the song down, but I still liked it. A 9 out of 10 for me. Red Ruby The Sleaze is next, and again, it's just another great song, and it really made the bar for female rap higher. Forward from Trini, featuring Skillibang and Skang, is next, and it shows Nicki reference her Caribbean roots. It's not a song for me, but I understand why Nicki put the song there, and her verses were still really strong. It's just not a track I revisit often. Pink Friday Girls is another highlight of the album for me. If Cowgirl introduced Pop Nika in this album, Pink Friday Girls fully takes Pop Nika to its potential. The song is just so perfect to me, and the sample of Girls Just Wanna Have Fun is just tense across the board. Nicki referenced this as the super bass of the song, and the fact that this was like one of the most streamed tracks of this album daily shows to that. This really has the potential to be a summer smash if Nicki makes this a single. A 10 out of 10 song for me. Super Freaky Girl comes next, and of course we already know the song. The song that reinvigorated Nicki is still a power in the charts. It's a #1 hit, and if you listen to the song again, you're just reminded why. Next song is Bomb Bomb, and I just love this song so much. I was kinda sad at first when Nicki said before the album's release that this was a scrap song, and I gagged when I saw this on the track list. This song's just so damn catchy, and it's really one of my favorites. They say my price ridiculous, I don't like them bitches, pussy tight and vicious, hit them likes till like this. My Life is next, and it sampled Heart of Glass by Blondie. This song is kinda okay for me, but it definitely is a grower, and it's still not one of my favorites, but I still appreciate it being here. This song could have been not included in the album, honestly though. It's kind of a filler track for me. Nikki Hendrix is next, and it's another song that Nicki said was a scrap song from Queen that she included in Pink Friday 2. You can kinda tell that this was a Queen track from its production. It really picks up after Nicki's verse. Future's part didn't really do it for me, but Nicki's verse really saved this song for me, and just because of Nicki's verse, this is one of my favorites. Blessings is the next song featuring Tasha Cobbs, and it's a gospel song about Nicki being grateful for God. And I love this song honestly, even though it's not a song that I replay often. I still appreciate its content, and Nicki's vocals here was just immaculate. Last Time I Saw You is the second to last track off the album, and it was just an amazing song. As I've said before, I love this song so much. Just the Memories ends the album, and I would say it's the perfect song to end this album on. I don't think people understand how much I love this song. This song kind of saved me, honestly. I don't like getting personal on this channel, but this song pulled me out of a really dark time in my life, and that's why I go so hard for this song and for Nicki in general. And this song is just so motivational and so strong about how Nicki struggled and still came out the top. If they ask about me, tell them I was one of of one. This song really just encompasses the thesis of this album, that even after everything Nicki has been through in her career, she still is the greatest, and she will forever be imprinted in the memories of so many people. If you ask the general public, I think they would say either Roman Reloaded or Queen are Nicki's most polarizing albums, but both albums seem to have grown a cult following years after their release, and both have distinct positive critiques towards them. Roman Reloaded, for all of its faults, is Nicki's most experimental album. It's also her most pop album, and I would say her most appealing album to the general public. Queen, on the other hand, is her most cohesive album and her best album lyrically. I think Pink Friday 2 is receiving the same sort of polarizing status that both albums have. It's definitely her most ambitious album to date with its 22 tracks, the most for any standard Nicki album version. Now, whether it was successful in that ambition is heavily debated upon. A lot of people see it as a failure of an album, being too long, lacking any cohesion, containing filler after filler, failing to build up any momentum from track to track, whilst others see it as a triumph of an album. It sees Nicki aim for the stars and reach those stars in an album that is grand, bold, and a showcase of Nicki's best skills. Personally, I tend to lean more towards the positive critiques. However, I do think the real truth lies somewhere in the middle. As this was Nicki's first album in 5 years, and she kept on delaying this album time and time again, I think Nicki felt like she had this obligation to supply her fans with as much content as she can on the album. This can be the reason why songs she allegedly scrapped and played on her IG lives ended up on the album. But this is to the detriment of the album's cohesion and pace. I think for the amount of songs in the album, it was actually paced quite well, but it really would have flowed so much better if the tracklist were shortened. A similar sentiment was heard from her album Queen, wherein a lot of people said that there was a perfect 13-track album there, and that would have made it so much better. Interestingly, Pinkprint, even though it has a lot of tracks as well, doesn't receive the same criticism, and I think that speaks more towards Pinkprint's quality and legacy as this magnum opus of Nicki's. The rampant use of samples is also something that is heavily critiqued, though I think there are some unnecessary samples in Pink Friday 2, like the Billie Eilish sample and the sample in My Life. For the most part, I actually like the use of samples here. It gives the album this timeless feeling, and the fact that this album is a reinvention of sorts for Nicki, reinventing other classic singles and making it her own, I felt added to the album. Pink Friday also contained its fair share of samples, let's not forget. I do wish she sampled at least one of her own songs from Pink Friday though. I kinda hope she sampled Dear Old Nicki and recreated it for her current career and life right now. A big part as to why a lot of people have qualms with this album really, I think, comes down to the title Pink Friday 2. Being the sequel of an album that quite literally revived an entire genre of rap and defined a new generation of female rappers is a lot to live up to. And I think Nicki was kinda doomed as soon as she decided to name it Pink Friday 2, because sequels rarely surpass the originals, and it will always be compared to the original no matter what. Pink Friday was a concise reinvention of the female rap sound, a 13-track album that showcased Nicki's talent from her singing to rapping to creating pop hits. It really had it all, whilst Pink Friday 2 was a 22-track album that oftentimes feels like it's overcompensating to relive the magic of the original Pink Friday. A different name really would have helped this album's case and not set the expectations so high to the point that it's unreachable. It might seem like I'm dunking on this album, but let's not get it twisted, I love this album. As I said, this is Nicki's most ambitious album, and whether you like it or not, what you can't deny is that this album is quality, and I firmly believe that this is the best female rap project this decade so far. This album really felt like a showcase of Nicki's artistic growth and versatility as an artist, being able to rap about being the best and the queen, to being more emotional and trying to find peace with her father's passing, to her talking about her relationships and love, to her journey as a mother. Then she will rap about riding you like a cowgirl. This really has it all. Pink Friday 2 is far from a bad album. It rides its highs high and manages to keep the low points to a minimum, banging you with a banger afterwards. As Nicki said, all Nicki fans have something to take from this album, and it really seems like Nicki's priority here is to satiate all types of Nicki fans. In the promotion of the album, Barbs created an AI city called Gag City. It was initially just a phrase Nicki and the Barbs used to refer to the album. They were going to Gag City with this album. The Barbs, however, being the marketing masterminds that they are, created it into a moment, releasing AI pictures to create a fictional city inspired by the cover of Pink Friday 2, putting to life Gag City, a boisterous pink city of the future. And Barbs weren't the only ones that used this. Once Gag City became viral, brands such as Converse, Chili's, Chips Ahoy, Spotify, Genius, Netflix, Complex, and Wheat Thins also joined the Gag City trend. This became such a big moment that Nicki decided to incorporate it into a Pink Friday 2 marketing, releasing a Gag City game in Roblox, and then eventually turning Gag City as the main concept for her record-breaking tour, the Pink Friday 2 World Tour. The Pink Friday 2 World Tour is her 4th solo and 5th overall concert tour, and this tour has broken so many records, becoming the best-selling female rapper-led tour with only its first 17 shows. Rollouts is now currently the 9th best-selling tour by a rapper of all time, with 34 shows reported grossing over $67 million from its North American leg alone. It's not even close to being done, with a second American leg tour just being announced. It's on its way to be one of the most successful tours by a rapper of all time. So I think we're all asking, is Pink Friday 2 a successful return for Nicki, or just a successful era in general? After the hate train, after everything that's happened to her over the years, was Pink Friday 2 able to bring Nicki back? The simple answer is yes, it was a successful return for Nicki. No other female rapper has been able to have the longevity that she has. This album brought Nicki's streaming numbers up to where she's able to properly compete with the best of the best. She was able to shatter the narrative that she isn't commercially viable. They really came to see Otis. But of course, I think a lot of people still feel like Nicki could have done more with this era, and that is true. This era could have been her biggest era to date, yet she didn't promote any of the singles or tracks that were going viral after the album's release properly. Her online image also took a toll after Bigfoot and her drama with Megan Thee Stallion. But also, if you have been following Nicki since the dawn of time, you also have to acknowledge that this is nothing new for Nicki. She does have a tendency to not properly promote her singles and have confusing rollouts. Hate for Nicki Minaj, though it has drastically reduced compared to 2018, is still there, and it has been there since the start of her career. But look at her tour, how many people still go hard for her even after being cancelled or hated by the internet. The truth is, as something I keep on reiterating in my videos over and over again, Nicki Minaj is not going anywhere, whether you like it or not. She's simply too imprinted into pop culture to ever disappear, and she has shown that a simple hiatus will have people clamoring back to her like crabs. And I think that's the real point of this era. Her previous albums have always said something about her career, and this album is a re-reminder of who Nicki Minaj is as an artist and as a person. She is still the best of the best, the queen of rap. She's versatile, she's sometimes messy, but she always keeps it entertaining. She's mother, both literally and figuratively to us. She's Roman, she's Barbie, she's Red Ruby the Sleaze, she's Chun-Li, she's Onika, and she's Nicki Minaj. And that wraps up our tour on Gag City and Pink Friday 2. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. If you want to watch more Nicki content or more pop culture videos, subscribe to my channel. I'll be releasing more videos soon, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, stream Pink Friday 2. If you've been on Gag City, comment down below and tell me what's your experience. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you next time. Mwah, mwah, mwah.